Hey everyone, today's video is actually a challenge I got from my buddy Ace over at Fit to Play Games. And a little bit of time ago, he did a video on his top 10 favorite games of all time. And in that video, he called out a few of his YouTube buds, including me, and basically challenged us to make our greatest top 10 of all time too. Now, as most of you guys that are really gamers for a while, you know, this is kind of an impossible task to do. First of all, you know, there's just so many games that we've all played throughout the years, and just narrowing down like 10 of them as your favorite it's very difficult because you can't put your finger on like what really makes a game your favorite. And a lot of times, you know, your favorite top 10 games will just be like all racing games or, you know, all role-playing games, something like that. So that doesn't really make for exciting YouTube viewing. So he had a very good way of doing it, actually. He broke his top 10 into different genres. So he had like his favorite game in each genre. And that was a good idea. I kind of going to do something similar, but instead of genres, I'm going to do my top 10 games, but my top game that I have a good memory of on each console. So yeah, today we're going to get into that, and here we go. Okay, so for this challenge, I kind of had to go back into my memory and just think of all the games that I really had like a special moment with, you know, like just something that gave me a really good memory or just felt kind of like magical in a way. Those are kind of the favorite games that I have. And you know, I went back all the way to the NES, and I remembered when I was a kid and like how I'd just loved playing those old games. And the one memory I have that was kind of different from all the others was for Super Mario Brothers 3. And this one came out, I remember even before it came out, it was like in The Wizard, that old movie from the 80s. And they just hyped the hell out of this game in like all the magazines. I think Nintendo Power was talking about it. I remember all my friends were talking about it. And this was the only game back then that I remember being like that, where I was very excited about it coming out even. And I was so excited that I actually convinced my dad to take me down to Toys R Us the day that it got released. And I don't even remember like how I knew what the first day was. I was a little kid, you know, I didn't have internet or anything back then, but I think I must have learned about it in just like a magazine or something. So anyways, I remember just being so excited to get this game, and it did not disappoint either. I mean, I played the hell out of this game. Me and my brother both played it. We spent hours and hours just going through all the levels. And what was really amazing about this game was it was just such a big jump over anything else, like technologically on the NES that I've played so far, you know. I really love just the original Mario Brothers 2, not 2, the original Super Mario Brothers. I used to play it in the arcades all the time, I remember. It was just like something magical about Super Mario Brothers when you're a kid. I don't know how to describe it. But when this came out, it was like everything that you could hope for. You know, they had new little power-ups for Mario, and the graphics were better, and the game was just massive too. There's tons of levels. You know, you literally spend days just trying to beat this game. And it was the first Mario where I believe there was like a save function or a password function, something like that. I forget exactly. Or maybe that wasn't a password. I don't know. But I remember there was some way you could navigate around the game better, maybe with the flutes. But yeah, it was such a great game at the time. And that's why I'm putting it on my top 10 list. Now, the second console I got was actually the Sega Genesis. I got it, I think, the same year it came out, in 1989. And I didn't really have a whole lot of games for it when I was young, but what I do remember was getting this Dungeons & Dragons game. And this one is called Warriors of the Eternal Sun. And there used to be a lot of these kind of Dungeons & Dragons game on PC. I think this might have even been a PC port, I'm not sure. But I remember when I first got the Genesis, I had like Altered Beast, which was the packing game. And maybe like one other, I think it's some kind of, maybe like Fighting Masters or something, something dumb like that. And then I got this one. And, you know, looking at it now, it's a very rudimentary role-playing game. But back in the day, this really grabbed me. And I remember just having wonderful times with this, getting lost in the little world that they set up for you. And, you know, you can select your heroes and go on a quest, basically. And I think this was kind of the first game I saw like that on a console. You know, coming from the NES, there was nothing really that impressive on the NES, but this game had you know, better graphics, better music, and it still had like all these little secrets you could go find, and you know, go out in the wilderness, and the story in it was actually kind of interesting too. And I almost never hear anyone talk about this game. I don't think it really holds up today, but man, back in the day, I just had a wonderful time playing this for hours and hours and hours. And it was hard when I was young to beat. I don't think I ever beat it actually when I was a kid. It wasn't until years later that I came back and finally beat it. But yeah, this is one of the games I just have heavy nostalgia for on the Sega Genesis. Now, it was only about a year or two after I got the Sega Genesis that I got a Super Nintendo for Christmas. And that kind of replaced the Genesis as my, you know, main console at the time. I felt kind of bad, but my Genesis just kind of got put in a closet or something. Because I was just blown away by the Super Nintendo and all the, you know, colors on it and the more involved games, I guess. You know, Genesis I liked for the kind of arcade action games, and Super Nintendo had those too, but what I really liked about Super Nintendo was role-playing games that came out, especially the ones by Squaresoft back in the day. And this one, Chrono Trigger, I didn't actually get this until I was in high school, I believe, because this came out in... Oh, no, I'm sorry. This came out in 1991, so I would have been probably about 12 or 13 years old. And I remember getting this at Toys R Us. And I remember seeing it was a Squaresoft game, so I grabbed it. And the box art actually at the time didn't really look very appealing to me. I thought the face on the guy especially looked kind of strange. You know, I had never seen anything like Dragon Ball before that, but I think that Dragon Ball art had some influence on this. Anyways, this was a fantastic game, and I played this probably about 6 or 7 times all the way through after I got it. I remember it was just a magical experience because you're going around through time to all these different eras, and you're trying to like put a puzzle together and trying to right wrongs of the past. You know, your characters are going all over the place in this game. But what was really memorable about it was just kind of the atmosphere of the whole game. It's a very, very high fantasy type game, a little bit of sci-fi mixed in too. But the way that they kind of just mixed the music in, excellent music on the Super Nintendo. Probably one of the best game soundtracks on the Super Nintendo as far as I'm concerned. And this was just, it was like the most AAA out of all the Super Nintendo games I've ever played. Just the amount of work they put in this game to make it is just, it was like astounding to me at the time. And it was, you know, at the time it was like playing a movie almost. It was really, really cool. And that's why it's my favorite Super Nintendo game. Now my fourth game that I want to talk about is the fourth system I got too, actually. It was the PlayStation 1. And I got my PlayStation 1 actually kind of late. I was still playing Super Nintendo, you know, well into my high school years, I think, if I remember correctly. And it wasn't until 1997, when this game came out, Final Fantasy VII, that I finally broke down and said, okay, I gotta get a PlayStation. And going from the Super Nintendo to the PlayStation was incredible at the time. You know, this is the first system that I owned that was in 3D, basically. And, you know, you see like a few kind of, pseudo 3D, I guess, on Super Nintendo. Like Racing FX and Star Fox. Those are kind of like 3D games, I guess, but this one was the first one that really just shocked me. You know, I got this game, it had the CD quality sound in it, you had the adventure of the characters, the deep, deep story, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen, and it really left a memorable impression on me. I'm sure I've played this game like 3 or 4 times through too. And this is another game where I don't know what it is about Squaresoft, but they were just really good at matching up like the atmosphere of the game with the music and just giving you that kind of like unique magical experience that you could only have on a video game. It's very hard to explain, but you guys that are gamers and gals, I'm sure know what I'm talking about. And yeah, Final Fantasy VII, even though, I don't know, a lot of people hate on this game, maybe because it's just so popular. And it was popular. I mean, this probably sold more games than any other game on the PlayStation, I think. I could be wrong about that, but it was really high up there. And yeah, well, what a great time I had with this game. Definitely more of a memorable experience than any other game I had on the PlayStation, even though I did have a lot of great times on the PlayStation. This one was #1. Okay, for the fifth one, I'm going to switch it up a little bit, and I'm going to show you a PC game that I played. This is StarCraft 2, and this came out, I think, in 2011, something like that, 2010. And I believe I got this when it was new still. You know, it came out, and this was actually the first RTS game that I ever played. And I really connected with this game somehow, even though I never was like a big strategy player. There's tons and tons of these kinds of games on the PC. I think I've got like 3 other ones that I probably haven't even tried yet, just older PC games that maybe were even trying to copy StarCraft's 2 success. But this one, it's got like a campaign. You can go through a story. The story is very good. You know, they set up a whole science fiction world where you're running around on other planets and, you know, fighting for your life basically against alien species. Like, there's a bug species, there's a kind of an energy being species, and then the humans. And you can play as, you know, either anyone you want when you start a game, and then you can either play against a computer or do your campaign story mode, or you can play online against other people. And this game, I still think they still have tournaments for this game. I believe it's really big in South Korea, and you know, they'll have like thousands of dollar prizes for the people that are really good at this. I've never been very good at this against other people, to be honest. I usually get my ass kicked unless I like kind of do like cheap way of playing. Like, I got little tricks and stuff over the years that I learned from other people. But I wanted to put this PC game as my #1 PC game because I actually still play this. This is a game that I will just like play when I'm working. You know, if I have a little time, I'll just throw in a quick round. And there's just something about it where I can just kind of do something else while I'm playing. Like, I can listen to a financial podcast or something and play this game. And it's just, it keeps you busy, I guess. That's why I like it. But yeah, I have put literally over 1,000 hours on this easily since I've got it. And that's why I put it as my top PC game. Maybe not like the most interesting PC game I've ever played, or like the most, you know, story-wise great, you know, something like that. But yeah, I just like it. Now, the sixth game I wanted to talk about is for the Xbox 360. And I kind of had a little trouble remembering like great experiences on the Xbox 360 versus the PS3, because I kind of had the two systems at the same time. And there's a lot of games that were on both systems. But for the Xbox 360, I really got into Oblivion. And this is the Elder Scrolls game that came out before Skyrim, obviously. And Skyrim I had a wonderful time with too. I actually almost put that one as my #1 Xbox 360 game. But this one I think was just more, it was more fresh at the time for me. Because I played this one, let's see when it came out. I believe I played this in like 2006, maybe 2007. And I liked it so much I even got the expansion pack, the Shivering Isles. But this game was just so different than any other game I played. You know, it's a Western RPG. Usually I just play like JRPGs before this. And you're in just a huge, expansive, free roaming world where you can just get into all kinds of quests. You can kind of just choose whatever you want to do, basically. You know, they have the main storyline you're kind of following, but then if you don't want to, you can just run off the beaten path and, you know, find a new adventure anytime you want. And I must have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours playing this game. And I remember everyone at work, when I was working at iPlay, a lot of the guys there, they were playing this game too. So we kind of shared secrets with each other. So like, oh, you can do this and that. And my manager actually he taught me a way to cheat in this game where you can like take all your armor and your clothes and you can put like invisibility spells on them, and then once you put them back all on your character, no one can see you. So you can just run around the monsters, they can't see you. You can just like hit them in the back and stuff. It felt like a total way to cheat, but I actually used it because the end boss, I remember, I don't remember if it's the end boss of the main game or if it's the Shivering Isles boss. Maybe it was the same boss, I forget. But I think it was this one. The main boss was just ridiculously hard. Like, I had just like no way to beat him. And it felt really cheap too, the way the main boss would fight. And I remember it just felt very unfair. So I'm like, well, you know, I'm gonna be unfair too. So I just put in all my invisibility clothes and I just hacked on him from the back where he couldn't see me and he couldn't find me. And that was just one of the little memories I have of this game. But I spent hours just kind of hanging out in this huge world, and something about it that I had never seen was the music and just the fantasy aspect. Is kind of like the music was very kind of whimsical, but also very melancholy too. And I could just kind of sit there looking at the landscape, I remember, in the game, and just listening to the music and just being like, wow, this is really what I think of when I, you know, imagine like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing, or, you know, just a basic Western RPG. And I said, this is the top, man. It's never going to get better than this. But after that, we got Skyrim, and you know, whenever they do another one of these Elder Scrolls games, that if it comes out on Xbox, I might be forced to pick up an Xbox just to play it. Okay, for my seventh game I want to talk about, I actually want to go back to the PS2. And this is a series that I actually missed back when it was new. This is a series from, oh, I probably should have looked before. I think 2001 was the first game, and it went up to at least 2005, I think. But I put all these games kind of together as one game because it's all interconnected story. And these are the Xenosaga games. You got Xenosaga 1, Xenosaga 2, Episode 2, and Episode 3. And it wasn't until about 2015, I think, that I played these games. And it was kind of a time where I was going back to PlayStation 2 again after not playing it for a while. And when I started playing these games, I just said, wow, there's something about these games. I don't know what it is. These are, you know, kind of one of your epic JRPG type of games, kind of like the Final Fantasy games in many ways. But you know, it's another one of these games where they just put a ton of work into, and I think that's one of the really impressive things about it. Actually, I think their dreams of this game were a little too high, and what's the word for it? They kind of bit off more than they can chew when they started making this game, because it was very over ambitious, and they were trying to do all kinds of different things, like you know, trying different things kind of with a story, I think, as they were still making the game. So as you're playing through some of these games, some of the things you're doing don't really make sense. Like, all of a sudden you'll just have like some random quest to go fix some guy's roof, you know. It's like, it's stuff you only see at a JRPG, right? Just silly stuff like that. But that's kind of the charm of this game, is I put many hours on these games. Each one of these games is easily like 40 hours, I'd say. And they just did something special with, I think the story is probably the main thing that is really memorable for me about this game, because it's almost like it's like a retelling of like a Bible story, I think. Or maybe just kind of like a bunch of Bible stories put together. I don't know, I never read the Bible, so I'm just guessing, but I know there's like a ton of Bible references. And there's like Mary Magdalene referenced in it, and there's like, I don't think Jesus is actually ever mentioned, but I think you're kind of like led to believe like one of the characters is kind of like Jesus. It's very strange, and everyone kind of has their own like take on it, I think. But this game is actually one game I'd really love to see remastered, and if they could just make like all the episodes together on one Blu-ray, I think that would be freaking awesome. And maybe you know, the people at Monolith could get together again and kind of put their heads together and maybe just fix a few things about, you know, the story, make a little more sense, because there's a lot of times you're just kind of scratching your head like, what is going on right now? But I don't know, maybe that's also kind of the charm of it, because you're playing through this game and you're always waiting for the next thing to happen. It's like always got you on the edge of your seat, and there's always just some kind of crazy like supernatural science fiction thing going on too. Maybe you guys haven't ever played these. I don't know if they hold up still for a lot of people. The graphics are kind of a mixed bag. But if you like JRPGs and you've never played this, I'd at least get the first one and try it. Or this is the second one. The first one and try it, because you might like it. I don't know. Okay, for number 8, we are kind of continuing on the JRPG path with Xenoblade Chronicles. And these, I believe the same company that made the Xenosaga games made this game. And this is on the Wii. It's been remastered on the Switch too. So if anyone of you guys want to try this game and have a Switch, that one's probably a better version. But this one is quite excellent as well. I had never owned a Wii actually until probably just 2 years ago. I don't know. I remember making one of my old YouTube videos when I first got the Wii and talking about this game. But I thought it was just a fantastic game, and it really kind of made me respect the Wii. Before I played this game, I thought Wii was just kind of a bunch of shovelware and stuff, and they didn't really make any great games for it that weren't, you know, like, you know, Mario or whatever, Metroid. And yeah, this one just really blew me away. It's kind of similar to the Xenosaga games, actually, but you know, you're on a different world, you know, completely different story. It's not related, but you see a lot of similar aspects. There's like this kind of silly stuff you can end up doing, and what was really magical about this game was just the size of the world you're in. I've never seen a game like this where you're running around on like kind of these giant alien beings, basically, and you don't really know it though when you're playing the game. It just looks like you're running around on normal land, but these beings are so huge, and at any given time you'll be like on its arm or its leg or something like that, and all of the enemies that are crawling around on these huge beings are really big as well. And your characters are just tiny little humans, basically, but you're fighting all these huge monsters and robots, and the story just gets out of control. And I can tell they really had a lot of fun making this, and they put just so much time and work into making this such a likable game that I had to pick this for the Wii. Even though there are some other games on the Wii that I like too, but I'd say this one just knocks the socks off any other Wii game I've ever played. Okay, now for number 9, I went up to the PlayStation 3. And the PlayStation 3 was actually kind of tricky for me to pick out because a lot of the same games on the PlayStation were also on the Xbox. But the one that I really had stand out to me was Dark Souls. Now, a lot of you guys know Dark Souls as being just like a ridiculously hard, punishing game, but there's a lot more to it than that, actually. It's very kind of like a dark fantasy game with all kinds of lore in it, and the game itself is just incredible how they put it together with so much imagination, and it really just hooked me right off the bat when I started playing it, because I kind of like kind of dark, hellish type fantasies. I think when I started playing this game for the first time, I was also watching an anime called Berserk, which is kind of a dark, hellish anime as well. So the two kind of went hand in hand for me. But this game, what they were able to do with the world in it is very interesting. You're walking around, and instead of going from like level to level to level, all the different parts of the world are connected with each other. So it's kind of like a honeycomb of places you're going, and there's little tunnels that lead to different parts of the place. So it's very clever how they connected everything, and just the atmosphere of the game is very, very sinister. You're walking along, and you never know, you know, what's going to happen. You might be walking around a corner, all of a sudden you get jumped by a dragon. And the cool thing about it, though, is once you learn where all the little pitfalls and stuff are, even though you keep dying over and over again, even the back of the game says prepare to die, but that's how you learn how to play it. You die, and then the next time you'll know, like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't do this, maybe I shouldn't do that. So as you're going through the game, it's a whole learning experience. You learn where all the enemies are and what they're going to do, and there's a trick to beating a lot of them. And I really just got into this game too, because there's a whole lot of fans of this game. It's kind of like a cult following, I think. And there's all kinds of like YouTube videos you can watch that explain like the lore of the game. There's all this backstory that is barely presented in the game, but somehow people knew about it at the time. And I don't know, maybe they're just more clever at me than figuring it out. But yeah, if you guys have never played Dark Souls, I definitely recommend just trying it. And if you have played it, let me know what you think about it. Now for number 10, my final game that I picked out of all these is going to be for the PlayStation 4, my newest console, and that is Red Dead Redemption 2. Now I played this game on the Xbox 360, the first one, and when this one came out, I waited for a long time before I jumped in on it. I think I was maybe just a little nervous to get into it, And that's because this game is just enormous. I don't even know how many hours I put on this, but it might have been like 200 hours easily. And you can just get lost in the world. It's kind of like an open world game like GTA is, and the Skyrim game, Oblivion, you know, kind of similar where you're to open world. And these Western companies are very good at making these kind of games, I've noticed. Just the amount of work and the size of the team that made this game had to have been huge. Just adding all these little things like plants and rocks. There's probably guys in this that were working on this game, their whole job was just to make the different rocks throughout the world. You know, it's just a massive game, and very impressive to play a game like this. And you feel like you're in a real Western, you know, not like a movie, but like you feel like you're in the Old West when you're playing this game. There's all kinds of animals running around, you go hunting, you can do all this different stuff. And I don't even really like Western movies per se, but they were able to do in this game just when you feel like you're in the U.S. In, you know, old Western times. They somehow just mastered giving you that feeling, and it made me like being in the world, even though I'd, you know, rather kind of play like a sci-fi game most of the time. I really enjoyed this. And it was hard to pick my favorite game on the PS4 because I also liked a few others that were really close to this game, where I had just a great experience. But after playing this and just really enjoying it, I think this is probably my top game for the PS4, and it might stay that way for a long time, maybe forever. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed my my little top 10 there. Like I said before, it's basically an impossible challenge to pick your top 10 games out of all time. So doing it kind of this way is a little easier. It gives you a little narrower window of what to pick. But I hope you guys enjoyed what I did here, and if you guys have a top 10 video you've done or you would like to do, let me know, because I'd love to watch it. We'll see you next time.